When I was a kid, there was a couple times when I've been interested in something and I liked it, and it wasn't until way later in life that I actually knew what it was. First was One Piece, and the second was Dungeons and Dragons. Play some kind of like cool stinger here, cool sound effects. When I was a kid, I used to watch the YogsQuest. They used to do like Minecraft and stuff, and that was mainly why I was into them at first. But then one day, they dropped this series called YogsQuest, and it blew my mind. You had the guys sitting at a table in real life, and they were playing a game. And it was like, whoa, what's this? And it wasn't a board game. They were just able to play this game with their just words and rolling dice.
I can see our first adventurer approach. A noble dwarf whose heritage is unknown, lost in the mists of time. Here, he approaches.
Hello?
This would probably be the point where I started with my obsession with D&D podcast. A couple years after that, a friend of mine introduced me to D&D, and then like all these dots connected, like, oh, that's what that was. Oh, okay. And I immediately like fell in love with it, but none of my friends were actually interested in playing it for more than like a couple sessions every couple of years or something. So my only option was to go back to things like YogsQuest, and I just became in love with these shows. They've consumed my life, a decent chunk of it at least, in like this very like Stockholm syndrome-y way. And I really don't have anybody to share this with, because anytime I tried to tell my friends about it or something, they'd say, oh no, it's not for me. This is really lame. This sucks. My friend described it once to me as it's like if you're in high school and you're sitting at like a lunch table alone, but behind you there's like a group of friends hanging out, and you're listening to them hang out and talk and be buddies, and you're like, yeah guys, I'm right there with you. And it's accurate, but I still love it. And only recently did I take the time to look back and compile all the old shows that I've watched. And it was like a little trip down memory lane. And as I wrote these down, I realized, one, I have a lot of free time that I'm really burning unwisely, and two, that I really want to just let out what I've been thinking about these shows for the past like decade. I don't know, maybe 6 years. It's probably more accurate. And so that's what this video is. I categorize these into 4 tiers: bad, mid, good, goated. That way it's just easy to find where things stand without having to be like, this one's better than this one is number 1, this one's number 2. It just makes more sense, and you can just disregard whatever I say. It doesn't really matter. But YogsQuest, I mentioned it earlier. This is where I started, which is why I think it is good to put it first. It's one of the first D&D podcasts. YogsQuest stands out as being like the first show production. Real show. They have a set, they have costumes. Lewis comes out in the wizard robes, he's got the orb, and he's going, oh, I see everyone, they're coming here. Simon the dwarf, Duncan the wizard, Sips the lady bard, and Shin the rat king or whatever. And they walk out, there's little animations, there's character profiles, they have B-roll, they have shots of like their mini tokens spinning around. It's the first real show production of these, There are some that are probably older, but this one is the most actually produced. And these guys, they are professional, but it still has that sort of scuffed feeling to it that makes it really endearing, which is why even if I am a bit biased, I would put it all the way up at goated, just because it's definitely one of those where even if you're a normal person who can't sit still and listen to like a podcast, you could still probably watch it and enjoy it, because it is more like a show and separate into like bite-sized 20-minute episodes instead of like 4-hour sessions. Dice Camera Action, the first actual D&D podcast that I watched before Critical Role became huge, the thing that everyone heard, before Baldur's Gate 3 was this massive game. The only way, and right, before like Stranger Things even, the only way for D&D, Wizards of the Coast, the owners of D&D, to sort of market it was by producing their own shows, their own podcasts. And this one was probably the most popular. It had Pro Jared, Holly Conrad, Anna Prosser, and Nathan Sharp. Nate Wants to Battle. Same thing. Pretty popular YouTubers at the time, and they're being DM'd by Chris Perkins. His whole shtick is not planning so much. He's able to do so much on the fly, off the rip, and it really does lend well to the streaming a D&D game format. I miss it. I really do miss it. These guys, they had episodes were 2 hours, I think, 2 to 3 hours, something like that. And they would go through official modules, and it was advertising. It feels weird to look back and realize that it was advertising, because I still really was invested in this. Dice Camera Action, I don't know how to properly, there's so many things in my mind that I want to say about Dice Camera Action that it's hard to separate it and figure out what I should say first. We start off in Barovia, Curse of Strahd, official module, a book you can buy and run for your own friends, and then they move to another one, and then another one, and then another one. It's advertising. That's what a podcast is. It's just advertising. You could find these books and read them and know exactly where these people are going to go most of the time, but you don't do that. I didn't do that, at least. And it made this something, it felt weird. It felt official. I guess mainly because it was, but who's splitting hairs? It was, as it is the first actual D&D podcast I listened to, it is the most, like, not near and dear to my heart, but it's the one that I have this weird closeness to it, just because it was just part of my life for like a couple years. When I was first getting into D&D stuff, it really did base some of my own just internal feelings about what the game is, and that I have trouble moving away from, which is why I biasedly really do want to say that it's goated, but it isn't. It's kind of average. I'd say above average, just because it has like Chris Perkins. It's really well made. It's just good D&D show, above average. But it is sort of, to me, one of those at the pinnacle, here's what a D&D podcast is. But it's probably just nostalgia, rose-tinted goggles. So you can leave a comment saying that I'm a fruitcake if you want, for being emotionally invested in something like this. Don't worry. Hey, I believe you. I don't know. Overall, the players are professionals. So they aren't shy. They have good, this is something that goes for all of them. Every single podcast is, people underestimate the importance of good audio. There are so many times where if you try to get into like a D&D podcast and they have like messed up audio, it's just grating to the ears. But just overall, there's nothing I can explain about dice camera action that is just explaining the story, which would probably be better at like another time, maybe in like a dedicated video or something. But just, I don't know, whatever, above average. Dragons in Places. Wait, I forgot something. Right, dice camera action, it got canceled sometime around 2018, I think. Sometime around 2018. Big news story breaks out. Pro Jared talking to minors, and he also cheated on his wife with Holly Conrad, and so the show ended. Whether or not he's actually guilty, he kind of defended himself, but the show never came back, so it ended like 100 episodes in. I can't believe it. I'm actually remembering that I used to go on the subreddit when I was a kid. I didn't even have an account or anything. I would just go on there and be like, whoa, look at all this art. That's awesome. I cannot believe I was ever this invested in something like that. Dragons in Places. This one also makes me laugh because it was the Game Grumps D&D show that they did, and Pro Jared and Holly were also involved in it. So after it ended, it never came back. But with that being said, it was an alright series. You had Aaron, Barry, Susie, Ross, Holly. Was there anyone else? I can't remember if there's anyone else. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Aaron, Susie, Barry, Ross, Holly. I think that was it. Jared is an old head when it comes to D&D. So the way he DMs is very sort of like embedded in that old style of campaign modules from like 3rd edition or whatever. He'll be like, this is the thing, this is the thing, this is the thing, here's the dungeon. The sort of standard D&D, older style standard D&D thing might be, like if you watched fucking Stranger Things and you see how they play D&D, where it'll be like, and then you defeated the Gorgon, and then you return to the king, and then he says thank you. Like that's, looking back, that's sort of how he does it, because that's just like old style D&D sort of was. But he does let them do like funny little role-playing bits. I remember Aaron and Susie was playing like a human male fighter, and Aaron was playing like a elf lady, and immediately as soon as the first game starts, he's like, oh, no, I immediately fall in love with him. And the whole time they're playing, they're going like, yo, what's up, babe? Check this out, babe. I'm gonna kill this guy for you, babe. And it rules. It's funny. I loved it. It was a very endearing bit. Just like things like that, because Game Grumps, they are funny. If you like Game Grumps, you're probably gonna like it. The only problem is that since Pro Jared and Holly was in it, they fucking nuked the whole thing. It's gone. You have to find it on SoundCloud instead, which I was able to do, and when I saw it, it reminded me of everything. It made me laugh. I remember when I was younger, I would watch these shows so much that I straight up fucking expected it. When the news actually broke that Jared was fucking Holly, I started laughing. It's still one of my most proud moments, is realizing that I was able to suss it out before anyone else. Because it just, the way that they interact with each other is just, it's just so obvious to me. So when the news broke out, I felt like fucking Bruce Wayne. I felt like fucking Sherlock Holmes. Okay? This is my proud moment. I remember one time, since Ross and Holly were married, and Aaron and Susie were married, Aaron and Susie did the "Hey, what's up, babe?" bit so many times, and then Ross tried to do something with like the same with Holly, and Holly would always like shoot it down. And so when I shot, I was like, "Oh, dude, no!" And so it was just fuel on the fire for me. And then when the news broke, it was just like the floodgates are open, and it was just pure catharsis, man. I'm getting sidetracked. But really, I don't know, it's like average. But personally, it's goated just because of how funny I found that. And just, it's such a special moment to me. HarmonQuest. This is another actual show, sort of like YogsQuest, as opposed to like a podcast that's like a couple hours long. It's like 20-minute bite-sized. We'll play a D&D game in front of a live audience, and then we'll animate it and edit it down, and then it's like a 20-minute episode for a show. It's ran by Dan Harmon. Dan Harmon, co-creator of Rick and Morty, Community, all those stuff. If you like that stuff, you're probably gonna like HarmonQuest. As is all there is to it. He's playing it with his friend, his ex-wife. I'm realizing these guys just play themselves. They don't actually have characters. They're just playing themselves. Dan Harmon, his friend, he was like some goblin guy in real life and in the show. His ex-wife, his friend Spencer, who is the DM. And he's like, when you think of like Dungeon Master, you probably think of like a guy with like a big, gross, ratty ponytail and like glasses and a bit overweight and all that stuff. That's him. If you were ever interested, this is like the equivalent of like eating wheat cereal. It's not bad. I'll just say average, mid.
He does all these adorable dumb things.
Yeah. I'm gonna go level 1, no. Level 2, no. I'm going to use searing judgment.
哇，这很疯狂！
Can I? Can I uncork a flagon of searing judgment upon you? Come on, fucker, let's go!
哇，这很疯狂！
I judge you! You think you're all that? You're not all that!
哈，好搞笑！
Fraction of all that! You're not even a scintilla of all that, fucker! Damn!
哈，好搞笑！
I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Dealing 47 damage.
哇，这很疯狂！
Judge not, yes, ye do be judged! This is awesome!
哈，好搞笑！
Dortheon is like smoke.
The Adventure Zone, Season 1. Whew. Dude, Adventure Zone, Season 1. It fucking rocks. I love it. Just off the bat, I'll say goated. Just so you know, I love it. It's the best. It captures... It's lightning in a bottle. There's something about it that really is different from all the other shows, podcasts, even like the other seasons of Adventure Zone. In the later seasons, they get too hung up. I'm getting ahead of myself. Adventure Zone is ran by the McElroy brothers, the hosts of Mabimbam, My Brother and Me. Griffin, Travis, Justin McElroy, and their dad, Clint McElroy. Griffin is DMing. He's the youngest brother. These guys, they have their own sense of humor. If you were ever into like Polygon or, I don't know, like Adventure Time or something, these guys are sort of like in that sphere of humor. The show opens up with them being like, oh yeah, people keep telling us to play D&D. We've never played D&D before, so we're just gonna see how it goes. And they're using like pre-made character sheets that they like change the name on, and then it just goes off the chain from there. When I say it's lightning in a bottle, I really do mean it. They managed to capture their first experience playing, and it's just this perfect storm to make something. I adore it. It's my favorite thing ever. when it comes to D&D podcasts. It is never going to be replicated. It's reason why I sort of am not as interested in the later seasons is because they've already played before. They're trying to do something, as opposed to the Adventure Zone Season 1, where they don't really understand what they're trying to do, but they're still doing it. And I love it. There's no other way to explain it. There is no other way to explain it. My main gripe is that they sort of get too deep into, like, narrative. Oh, we must tell a story, which is where it starts to fall off and where, like, the next season start having, like, shortcomings. But before that, it's golden, platinum. It's global. Just watch it. It's perfect. It's the best. When I say HarmonQuest is like the most vanilla show, and so it's like good to start with Adventure Zone, it's the best thing to start with. It's the best one to start with, because it's the best. Season 1, though. Season 1.
That means it's open, right?
Yes, with that, the box pops open. It has 900 gold pieces inside.
Yeah!
I did it.
Way to persevere.
We can't take these. This is
Totally can.
No,
Listen.
I keep staring at Taco.
No, listen.
I don't blink.
Insurance will cover this. It's fine.
Listen, it's a bank.
This is a victimless crime.
We're not looting.
FDIC will cover this.
We're literally stopping a bank robbery.
I keep staring at Taco.
Just because you found money in a bank doesn't mean that you could just take it with you.
I put the money in the bag for
staring.
safekeeping.
Great. I grabbed some chairs. I grabbed furniture. Why are we looting? This isn't a dungeon. People do business here. Put that back.
Listen, the government's gonna pay this back.
Nobody's gonna do anything. You're gonna get arrested. You'll go to jail. We're literally talking to the chief of police. He's outside.
He would do this if he were here. The
No, you know
corruption
what?
in the militia.
Magnus, I think he's right.
Nope.
Of course I'm right.
Let's put the chairs back and let.
You guys can split it 50-50 if you want. I swear to God, first thing I do when I get outside is I rat you out. I'm writing it on my goddamn character sheet.
Critical Role. It's mid. I'm sorry. I know if I got into it, I'd probably say it's the best thing ever. I just can't. I just can't. There have been multiple times where I've thought about it, and there have been multiple periods where I have. And I remember when I was younger, there was like a couple weeks where I started watching the second campaign, and I'd catch bits and pieces later when I remembered it, and stuff like that, but I can never keep up with it. It's the most highly produced D&D show. It's like the equivalent of eating at, like, Wendy's. Because, you know, Wendy's, it's like a step up from McDonald's, but it's still fast food. That's how I feel about D&D podcasts in general. But with Critical Role, mostly, is that it's a production. It's a show, which is why I don't feel like getting into it. I just don't feel like it. Because all these other things, it feels more genuine. Versus Critical Role. I don't think Critical Role is fake or that they pre-write the fucking episodes or something. But I just think that they don't what I want out of a D&D podcast. Which is fair. If you love it, then you love it. And you're entitled to saying you love it. And it's the most fucking successful show ever on Twitch. They're like the #1 most subscribed channel. Look, you don't need me to tell you that it's fucking good. You have Hollywood celebrities coming in to do guests. You have professional voice actors playing the characters, people who are just actually funny and handsome and pretty and smart and charismatic, and they're tall and handsome and bigger and stronger than you and whatever. And, you know, when you get all these factors in together, fucking it should be good because it better be good. When you have a gajillion dollars sent to Kickstarter because they want to make a TV show, because it better be good. It should be good. What the fuck am I trying to say? It's good because it has to be. If you have so much star power and talent and skill and money going into something, better be good. It has to be good. But that's why I'll say it's completely mid, because it's perfectly baseline, which is when I say something is above the average, it should ring in your head that these are people who don't have a highly produced show and they somehow manage to be better than Critical Role. When you just have some fucking dolts saying like, we should record ourselves playing D&D, and then they somehow manage to make it better than a highly produced show, that means something to me. That's why I stay in the game. That's why I'm still looking for new highs. That's what it means to me. And I have found some. I do find some occasionally that genuinely are, without insane production value, they've managed to make something special. Like Adventure Zone, or even like YogsQuest. YogsQuest, to a smaller degree, it's well produced, so it's in the same boat. But these are still just like loser dork weirdo guys who are a little bit awkward and weird, and then they manage to make something great. That's why, to me, Critical Role is always just going to be baseline, middle of the road. I don't know. Maybe I'll watch their 4th campaign. Holy fuck. I'm tired. I have no idea how some people do this for like hours. This is like taxing on the throat. Penny Arcade. These guys, if I was going to make a bet, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say these were the first ones. The first D&D podcast. Acquisition Incorporated. The whole bit is, oh, what if the D&D party was like a business and they were running like a business and it was all corporate? Haha, did you get it? That's to water it down, to reduce it down to its bare essentials. That's what it is. But I do love it. The history of the show is a little bit weird. They start off with a podcast. Chris Perkins is DMing. And then midway, they switch over to another guy. And then they do a couple seasons of the podcast. And then they switch to doing live shows for like a couple years. And then they do a show, a highly produced show. Then they do more live shows. Then COVID happens. And so they're doing it online. Then they go back to doing shows. And now they're doing a Kickstarter to do another series. Did you catch all that? I don't know. Acquisitions Incorporated, it is good. They're pretty funny guys. They do most of their most notable work live, which is a psychotic thing to think about. Who the fuck would want to watch a D&D game live in front of like a giant audience? Anyone who can do that they've got to be pretty good. And that's like their bread and butter. That's what they've been doing for like the past 10 years. So I'll say they're pretty good. The one downside, I'll start off just by saying above average. Pretty good. There's not enough of them to go around, especially when they weren't like doing live shows. They couldn't do any. Jerry Holkins. Holy shit. I just remembered how many members of the cast there is, and I just had like a panic attack trying to remember all of them. Jerry Holkins, Mike Krahulik, Patrick Rothfuss, Will Wheaton, Josh, what was his name? Chris Straub, Anna Prosser, Holly Conrad, WWE star Xavier Wolf? Was that it? Some lady. Scott Kurtz. That was who I was thinking of. So that's like 7 or 8 like regular players that show up. The main 4, there hasn't been a main 4 in a while. It used to be always Jerry Holkins is there. He's like the main guy, basically. He basically owns everything. Mike Krahulik, he's like the second. It was very weird. He doesn't show up much anymore. Something weird. I hope he's in the series, but for some reason he hasn't been showing up. It's kind of been a little bit frustrating, but unless Jim like died or something. His character Jim died while I wasn't looking. Maybe I just forgot something. I was going to go on a big rant about how I miss Jim and how it's just annoying to bring in 3 randos every time. And it's been like kind of like lowering the quality, but I now that I'm thinking about it, Jim might have died in like a session I didn't watch, and now I don't know where he is. So to avoid looking like a fool, I will hold my tongue for now. Maybe someday I will unleash my wrath. There's something, I don't know, that was lame. Penny Arcade, Acquisitions Incorporated, it's good. Acquisitions Incorporated C-Team, that's like an actual podcast that you can listen to where Jerry is like the one hosting it, and he has Ryan Murphy, Ryan something is playing Dinar, Chris Straub is playing Cathris Draub, Emily, some lady is playing Rosie Bingstinger, and Falcone. There's an Italian mobster named Falcone at the table who's playing Walnut Dongrass. C-Team has definitively ended. I remember one time during a live show, I wasn't there, I just saw like clips of it on YouTube Shorts. Chris Perkins came up with an idea of, in like some magic house, you can get through like a teleporting circle, but in order to do it, you have to tell your deepest, darkest secret in order to get through. And Jerry loved that idea so much that he created a whole series around it of like you progress the story through character building, basically. And it's when someone's explained that to me, it put everything into perspective. And it does make me want to go back and watch it from the beginning to the end, because I kind of tuned out for a little bit. I remember like the last thing I saw was like two of them died, and then they like summoned a druid, and then that was like the last thing I saw. And then years went by, and a bunch of it went off the fucking rails. So for C-Team, I'll say mid to above average, somewhere in between those two. But it could be better. I'm not sure. It might be. Maybe I'm misremembering it. I'll figure it out. Holy fuck, man. I am looking at this list, and like all the ones on the right side are like ones that are sort of like I might not have too much to say about. Some of them, not even all of them. Holy fuck, never mind. I'm looking at this list, and it's all of them almost, where I have some crazy amount of information that I want to say about them, and I feel like I'm running out of fuel already. Holy fuck. Talking is hard. Hello. Hi. Rustage. The Rustage catalog. Daniel Rustage is a nerdcore rapper. He's nothing other than that. But for the past 3 years, he's been running One Piece D&D, Isekai D&D, and One Piece D&D Marines. One Piece and One Piece D&D Marines are two sides of the same coin. They're basically the same show. It's got the same players, the same DM, same premise. Not really. It's in the One Piece world. Except one of them, they're pirates, and then when they finished that one, they started a new one where they're Marines. Pirates one is done. It's over. Finished. Finito. You can watch it from beginning to end. Sorry, my cat does not like being alone. I need to get him like a friend or something. And then there is D&D Marines, in which they are Marines. I already said that. One Piece D&D Marines, it is ongoing, and they've only like a couple episodes in as of the time I'm recording this. So if you see this, if you're interested, if you like One Piece, I'd recommend watching One Piece D&D Marines. They have good audio equipment. And Daniel Rustage, he's a music producer. He's good with sound quality and all that stuff, and putting music and editing it down. If you watch it on the YouTube, it's well made, but it's still just like a podcast where they've just got a couple cameras on them, and then that's it. Very, not bare bones, but all minimalistic. You don't need much. I think when I got into it, it was before I even got into One Piece on my own, which is just very weird to think about. But it's good. It's honestly, currently, it's my favorite thing. First off the bat, goated, perfect. I love it. To be up front, One Piece D&D, pirates, Captain William, played by Teking101, Ragnar, played by Breeza80A, Verona, played by Too Spooky, and what's that one guy? Lost Paws, playing Duros, the Knight. They crash land on an island. Their friend dies. They meet some girl stranded on the island, and they build a raft and sail away. And from there, pirate journey starts. It is phenomenal to just see them go in the same sort of structure as like a show or a series One Piece, where it's arc to arc. Every arc, they're taking a step up. They're fighting a bigger enemy. They are gaining more status in the world. They're getting stronger. All these things play well together in a D&D format. And that's why I really do like it. I do like it. I do very much like it. Something about it. They've struck magic in a bottle. And in the same way, I feel almost like Adventure Zone. And Rustage has talked about how that's like his only real inspiration. That's like the only show he's consumed, which is like, hey, maybe it's meant to be. But you know what? I just love it. I adore the series. If you don't want to get involved into like a 70 episode D&D podcast, you can start with D&D Marines, where it's Damien, Bradley, Kai, and Yokon. And there's an NPC named Taiga, right? That's their little unit. They're getting sent on missions. It's a different sort of structure, but it's still them, where instead of being like, oh, where do we go? Let's just go do this and that. Here's your mission, and they slowly find out more and more outside factors around the mission, and they're sort of like, well, if this is this, then what do we do? I'm nerding out. I'm just excited. I don't know. There's nothing I can say about it to really express what I like about it, other than it's the most just genuine. That's it. It's genuine. It just does feel like friends getting together to play this game, and it's just fun. There's nothing where telling the story is getting in front of just people playing. No outside aspect is just getting in the way. It's not about, oh, well, we gotta do this for the production. Oh, we've gotta do this for the story. Oh, we've gotta do this for that. It's just friends playing this game, and they aren't cringe and annoying, or there's not bad mic quality, or there's not just outside forces that dampen that raw genuineness to it. It's why I adore it. Isekai D&D is very much so similar to that, but it's not tied to One Piece. So if you're not into One Piece, or if you feel like that would completely dampen your ability to enjoy it, it was like, oh, I hate One Piece, then Isekai D&D is fine. It's got Schwabity playing as Cody, Daniel Green playing as the Shark, Teking and Briggs, they're back as Old Tony and Norman. If you don't like One Piece, Isekai D&D, it's fine. More than fine. I love it too. I love it a lot. Equally. Also goated, I'll say that. In that, where the One Piece D&D, they're still trying to stick to, One Piece. Isekai D&D, like, all limiters are off. Any sort of, like, things that be like, oh, well, this is One Piece, so this means this. It's completely off the table. Isekai D&D is like a Rustage game turned up to like 10, okay? Whatever. Watch any of them. They are the best ones out right now. I'll say that. Goated. Arcadum. Whew. I don't even know where to begin with this guy. This guy's a whole can of worms. Arcadum was the biggest D&D show. Would it be fair to say show? No. Show producer. He was a professional DM. There are some people on Twitch, and there's not too many of them, but there's some. Their whole thing is they are professional DM, where they have friends who are streamers or whatever. Popular enough where they get like a group of like 5 of them and then they'll do a weekly campaign on like Monday, and then a group of another 5 and do it on Wednesday, and then another 5 do it on Friday, and then and then another one, and then they do two whole game sessions on Monday, and then they got one on Wednesday and Friday, and they're doing like 5 games at the same time. They're streaming all of it, and it's like one overarching story and one connected world. And when one wraps up, they go into another phase, and then another phase. It's some kind of Marvel cinematic universe type thing, but it's all just through D&D. Arcadum was very popular. Number 2, right under Critical Role. And for a while, D was doing pretty good. He had just gotten off of the second phase, and he moved it forward where everyone's going to the fucking Japan island for his world. You know, I'll be fair, I got swept up into the hype. I got into it. I watched Lost at Sea, Servants of the Spire, Shrine of Sin. I think I was trying to get into a couple other ones, I think. When I'm saying big names, I mean like Ludwig, Donkey, Moist Critical, Immortal HD, Kraken, Tomato, all like whoever you could think of, they were going to him. There were some people thought like if you're into like the Twitch scene, you probably know a bunch of people who were going towards him, like OTK or whatever. And like he was gonna do a main campaign, which is like, looking back, that might be like a little bit of a red flag, I guess, where he was like making multiple groups like compete as to who would be like the long-term running campaign. Looking back, bro, what are you doing? You're playing with fire right now. You're cooking with gas. And that was the whole thing. It was just getting to his head. Bam! Disaster strikes. Big reveal. He was a weirdo. Oh, a guy who's obsessed with D&D and is constantly talking about it and is always playing it, always wants to play it. Whoa, what a weirdo, right? But it goes beyond that, where people find out he's like trying to cheat on his wife, and he's like emotionally manipulating all of his female friends to be like, oh, feel bad for me, please give me pussy. And everyone in his community immediately goes, well, I guess I'm out of here. He went from being number 2 to being like, to getting 100 views on his main channel. He's taking a tumble, I'll be honest. But you know what? I'll say mid. It's one thing that does bother me is whenever like something bad happens, people immediately go to be like, I actually knew all along that he was weird, and that's why all that fun I had with him was actually not fun. Secretly, I just didn't tell anybody. It's okay, man. You could admit that you had fun with the weirdo. But when I'm saying this, I am honest. It's kind of mid. He was kind of mid. Which leads me to Brett Ultimus. This guy is just Arcadum, but better. Everything that Arcadum was trying to do and was doing all right at, Brett was able to do just better. The whole IO-verse, all that. That's Brett's thing, IO-verse. World of IO, now it's called IO-verse, in which he has all of his streamers buddies. They're doing weekly shows, 3 or 4 or 5 at a time, and it's telling one connected story, but Brett is just finding ways to make D&D better. He is getting the big maps done where they can move around their tokens. Usually it's just in your head, but he's streaming the whole thing. The fights, he's redefining how the fights in the game works. Truthfully, in D&D, combat kind of fucking sucks. It kind of stinks. It's not that intuitive and fun. Baldur's Gate 3 came out, people love it, but when you're just playing like in a board game, it's hard to make it fun. And he's found a way to make it fun and interesting. It annoys me whenever I see someone, their way of doing boss fights or something is, oh, let's just give them 30 strength. They've got like plus 15 to their strength, so basically they can always hit you, basically, and they do like 3 attacks. That stinks. That sucks. Brett has found a way to make telegraphed attacks. He does, this guy is going to hit you in 3 turns, and he's going to do 100 damage, but if all of your friends crowd around you, it's going to be separated evenly across all of you. All of you are going to take, like, 10 damage instead. Stuff like that. He's doing things no one's ever thought of before. He's coming up with solutions to problems no one's thought of. The guy is a D&D whiz. Goblins of Io. Maybe, to me, it was one of the funniest shows. The most fun I've ever had just in listening to a show. I adored it. If you were going to, like, dip your toe into the world of Io, Goblins of Io is probably the best place to start. Especially since it's already finished. I'll say that is like All King. I loved it. I adored it. I'll say that, like, above average. Just, you know what? Generally speaking, all of his stuff is, like, above average to goated. Goblins of Io, I can definitively say, is goated. Everything else is probably above average to goated. Somewhere in that range. You could, like, blindfold yourself and throw a dart into a board with all the names on it, and you'd probably find something you enjoy. Pick anything that appeals to you. They got Wizard School, they got goblins, they got, let's go into the underground and find some weird, there's like weird corruption inside, what's going on? Just take a glance. Oh, space cops? Whoa. Studio Ghibli, there's like a magical mansion with like a bunch of doors that lead random places. Just anything. He's got everything. Brett Ultimus is doing everything that Arcadum did, but better. But for some reason, I don't even know if he has like the same numbers that Arcadum used to pull when he was at his peak. Brett Ultimus should be number 2. He should have that spot now that Arcadum's gone. But I don't even think that he does. I'm not sure. He might. I haven't looked at his live shows in a while. I still watch them. I'm catching up to his new stuff. Check it out. JoeCat. This guy. JoeCat. What is there to say about JoeCat? JoeCat is an animator. He made Crap Guide to D&D and Monster Hunter and Final Fantasy. And he's probably going to do one for Pathfinder. He's pretty alright. He started doing his shows, his own podcasts, right? He's doing all the art. Anytime their players talk to someone, he pulls up a picture of the NPC. He did it all himself, right? It really does just, you can feel his hands all over the projects. It all has his own touch to it. If you do like JoeCat, he's made pretty popular stuff. You are definitely guaranteed to like his shows. It's got his fingerprints all over it. He's got the JoeCat touch. I've only really watched Heart of Olympia. The premise is like, oh, you've got to go every couple of years, a group of people gets chosen to go on a pilgrimage to talk to dragons and get their shit so they can like feed it to a tree so that everything will not explode, right? Or something like that. And it just gets tangled up. They're getting tangled up. It does well. It does what it does well. It's got Runesmith. It's got Red from Tropes Talk. Red Blue Tropes Talk. Oh, what was the channel name? I don't remember. And then it's got some VTuber lady and some other guy. I can't remember their names. They're all charming, charismatic. They're all nice. But to be honest, there's nothing. I'd really just say average. I'd say average. I don't think for me personally, there wasn't anything about it that made me go, whoa. Wow. It's, truthfully, I don't mean this to be like Mr. Hater, but there's just no part of it in which I'm particularly wowed by it. It does what it does well. It has JoeCat's fingerprints all over it. If you like JoeCat, you're gonna like it. But I'm just, I'm a mid-tier JoeCat fan. If you're like a JoeCat super fan, then you know what, you're gonna love it. But me, I'm more down here. If you're up here, I'm like down here, okay? So you know what, maybe you're gonna enjoy it more. Honestly, you might. So, check it out. Perilous Storytelling, Folk and Dagger. PST, Please Stop Talking, is a group that does podcasts, very well-produced podcasts. Guy who's like the main showrunner, I think his name's like Billy. Very much savant. He's a savant. I'll say savant. He's very much a savant when it comes to audio and maybe editing. I think he does the editing as well. He's got the gift. He's got the touch. He knows what he wants to make, and he's got the vision to make it. He's playing the game with his buddies, Bird, Mandalorian Gaming, and Cameron. And the DM is Bren Daniel, right? Bren Daniel. His whole... Personally, I don't think I gel with the way he DMs much. Just, I don't know. There's something about it where it's just like, okay, to me. But everything else is stellar to me. I think Bren Daniel, he gives me the same sort of like vibes as like if you were ever like a theater kid, a kid in theater who's like, look at me, I want to be a voice actor. I can do 100 voices, and I love comic dubs and Homestuck and all that, whatever. That kind of kid that you knew in like high school or something. That's the kind of person I when I think of like Bren Daniel, right? And that very much like bleeds into like the way he DMs. And he's not like bad. It just doesn't gel with me. But everything else I love. I love the 4 characters when they're messing around, and even just from like a visual standpoint, it's a podcast. So I don't know why they go so hard with the visuals, where they have like little stick figures that will like bounce up and down following their like words, and they'll have like backgrounds, and they'll have little effects coming up, and they'll have music, and all this stuff is edited down a little bit to like, I don't know, like 30 minutes or like an hour an episode, something short. And it was good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. The one problem is that they only record like monthly. So the episodes are short. They record like monthly. There's just not enough of it. It's good, but there's not enough of it. Especially now that it got canceled. The whole thing got fucking canned because one of their they lost touch with like one of their friends, so they couldn't continue the show. They started a fundraiser for a new one, D&D. It's gonna be in space. They've got like 5 or 6 players now, and they've partnered with like a third party supplement creator for D&D. So, and they're using their material. So you've got like some guys playing like goldfish in a spacesuit or whatever. Whoa, so epic. Wow. That's besides the point. They fundraised it like a year ago. It's not out yet. Originally, I thought like what's going on? What's going on, guys? I realized that like they're probably like pre-recording it, and then they're going to release the whole thing in like a batch, which it's weird. It's a little weird since it's like a D&D show, but it is what it is. It'll probably be good. I trust it'll be good. If you don't want to get into a show that is like doomed, Folk and Dagger, it's, canned, it's not coming back, then you keep, hit that bell on their channel and keep in touch on the community tab for whenever they drop the space one. I forget what it's called. I'm going to look it up right now. Yo. Alright, I'm back. It's called Subliminal Space. So, Perilous Storytelling, Subliminal Space. There you go. Whenever it drops, keep an eye out. It'll probably be good. Pokemon, Dungeons and Dragons. I know that there are a couple of YouTube channels where their whole shtick is, Pokemon D&D. Let's get a group of people, and their whole thing is going to be, let's go on a Pokemon journey. And then all the Pokemon are part of their team. They're all characters that they're managing and all that. That's not what this is. There's like Loading Crew, there's like some other people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about specifically Lost Paws. He started Pokemon D&D. It's more like Mystery Dungeon. The idea is everyone in one region one day, there's a big flash and everyone gets turned into Pokemon. All the people So now they're dealing with this world in which people have been turned, in this region, have been turned into Pokemon. Half the people who are humans turned into Pokemon are wearing clothes, they're intelligent, they're civilized. The other half are just wild Pokemon, who are always Pokemon, who are like more like wild animals. They kill and eat each other, like rules of nature style, bro. It's crazy. It's pretty cool. It's got Rustage in it. So if you like Rustage, he's also in it. And Lost Paws, he's DMing. There's something, I don't know. I like the way Lost Paws, he's not bad. He's all right. You know, it's like his first time DMing, I think. He's not bad. The only thing that, like, I'd say as, like, criticism is, like, that he is, like, his whole thing is, fuck, I'm sweating bullets. I'm sweating bullets right now trying to think of a way to word this without sounding overly negative or like I'm being a hater. Because I do like it. I like the show. I've been keeping up with it for like a couple years, I think. A year or two, however long it's been going. This whole thing is, hey bro, it's D&D, bro. That's just how it is. When he says that, it kind of bothers me. It just bothers me. Because as D&D, you can do whatever you want with it. And whenever he says, hey bro, it's D&D, it's just how it is. There's something that bothers me. I can't put my finger on it. I can't figure it out. There's something about it. But he's not bad by any means. He's good at it. He's proficient. If you got that one, you're a star, babe. Look, he's not bad. Forget it. He's alright. You got Sif Avanella playing an amnesiac Vulpix. You have My Rupee playing a Psyduck who has voices in her head telling her to do stuff. You've got Charlie, played by Rustage, who's a Chatot, who is a failed aspiring musician. And then you have Gawillip, an outlaw. It's the most explicit one. I don't know why. Oh, wow, we're doing Pokemon. Let's make jokes about Gardevoirs and the Vaporeon. Yeah. It is what it is. If you have that sort of
savant
sense of humor, then, you know, it'll gel well with you. Only recently have they really entered into their stride, in which they're really getting into the meat and potatoes of the story, in which they're really heroes now. They're taking their role as people are recognizing them as good guys instead of just like vagrants or harassing like gym leaders or whatever. It's working well. It's a good formula. Instead of just being aimless gym, challengers, trainers, it's just a unique idea. Mystery dungeon, Pokemon mystery dungeon. If that's one thing, I'll need to give fucking Noble a pat on the back for coming up with that one. Good one, bro. Above average. Let's see. I've still got a couple of big ones to get through, but I'll save the best for last, because I've still got a couple big ones to go through, but I've got a couple of steamroll through because I don't have much to say about them because they're either incomplete, they got canned early, I haven't watched enough of it to really form an opinion, but I added it to my list for some reason. Like Super Mega D&D. Super Mega, like, they were gonna do a D&D show. They're taking a break from doing Super Mega, so no one knows if they're gonna come back or not as of recording. But on their like Patreon and stuff, they keep referring to an upcoming D&D show that they were working towards as an upcoming D&D show. So I don't think it's canned. I think it might still come out. Keep in mind open for that. I think it might be a good one. Dungeons and Daddies, and by those guys from Rocket Jump, like Freddie Wong, those guys. The premise is you take people from the normal world who are like parents, their dad stereotypes of like the sports dad, the loser, anxious dad, the whatever, and throw them into a world, like a fantasy world, give them like fantasy powers, all that stuff, and their kids go missing. They have to rescue their kids. Whoa. That's also a very interesting premise. They're funny people. It's a popular show, and it inspired one of my favorite D&D podcasts that I haven't discussed yet. It's coming up soon. I'll save that one for last. So I'll say above average, just because I owe a lot to it. But yeah, it's alright. not another D&D podcast. I hear it's good. I watched like the first session 0 where they're like coming up with the world or something, and I was like, that it is what it is. I hear a lot of good things about it. I hear it discussed in like the same heights as like Adventure Zone and Critical Role and all that stuff up there. I hear people talk about it. I haven't seen it myself. I might check it out. I hear it's very good, so check it out. I might check it out in the future, talk about it again, but for now, inconclusive. I don't actually know where to put it. Cosmonaut Tabletop, ran by Cosmonaut Variety Hour. I haven't actually watched most of his stuff. To me, it seems most like standard, middle of the road, D&D possible. I could probably get into it. I might. I don't think they have like bad mic quality or anything like that, and they're probably cool people if they've been doing it for a long time. And I like his videos and the stuff that his friends show up in, so I probably would like it. I just need to get invested enough to watch. I don't like Star Wars, so I don't think I want to watch the Star Wars one, but I might be into the fantasy one. The reason why it's on my list mainly is because recently he made a video about how cool it would be if there was like a social RPG for like the X-Men where you're going to like mutant university, and someone in the comment said, what if you did like a D&D campaign of this? And he was like, now this guy, that's a good idea. And I agree, that is a good idea. If he ever does it, I'm gonna watch it obsessively. It sounds cool. I like the idea of it. Status inconclusive. I don't know. Dimension 20. This is a well-produced show. It's basically Critical Role, but instead of like voice actors, it's like cast members from College Humor. If you were ever into like College Humor or Dropout or that whole thing, you'd probably be into it. Season 1, I've only watched Season 1. I liked it. I did like it. Well-produced show. The people are funny. Brendan Lee Mulligan, I think is his name. He's a very good DM. The world, it was a very nice one of like, a fantasy suburban college town. It does it well. The sort of personal drama of it, of like in 80s movie or something, whatever they were going for, like campy personal drama of like a college town, whatever. That stuff, I like it. It rules. I'll say above average. Definitely above average. Let's see. Dark and Dicey. This is where I kind of flex my little muscles of D&D podcast knowledge. This is an official D&D podcast, like Dice Camera Action. It has Nate Wants to Battle. It has Dookie Shed. It has the voice of Shantae. It has the voice of I think like Steven Universe, or like the voice of Finn, one of those two, something like that. And then they have some other girl, I forget who it is, and they're doing this like edgy campaign where the characters are evil or something. Just that alone, it makes me recall it fondly, as like the premise alone is very silly to me. The idea of like, I'm gonna play a paladin who's an atheist. I'm gonna play like a little girl who, like, when they get hurt, they turn like into a monster. Shit like that. It's like stuff like that that makes me look back on it and feels like, damn, how come this didn't go anywhere? Where'd it go? This should have gone 100 episodes, but it ended after like episode 7 or something. I need to dig it up. I need to check it out to see if it was actually good enough. If someone finds it and they see it and they watch it and it's good, you tell me. Leave a comment and say is it good or not, because I can't remember. It's like Schrodinger's like tier list, where it's superposition, it's bad and goated at the same time, where as long as I don't actually observe it, it can be this perfect gem in my mind without ever actually having to confirm whether it was good or not. And finally, last but not least, my favorite D&D show ever. Die of Laughter, ran by Bizzlesnaff, played by the boys from the Forehead Fable podcast, General Sam, Papa Poob, Red Dragon, aka Brian. These 3 guys I've been watching the podcast for years, Forehead Fables. Before that, I was watching General Sam for years. Probably one of my most consistent thing that I've stuck with for a very long time. I remember in like 2017 or 2018, General Sam mentioned one thing. He mentioned going to PAX one time and playing D&D, and that was like, immediately the clock started going in my head where I was waiting for this show that would eventually culminate. Years go by, I'm still waiting. I'm thinking it's gotta happen. It's inevitable. Years go by. He starts the Forehead Fable podcast. Years go by. Papa Poob, he comes on. He guests on it, and he likes him so much, he lets him be a permanent co-host. And then Brian comes on. And then Bizzlesnaff comes on. And then they have Freddie Wong on. Freddie Wong, he he's a player in Dungeons and Daddies. They love Freddie Wong. They love his shit. I don't know if he tells them about it. I don't know if they just figure out about it. He's doing a D&D podcast. They watch it. They like it. Ding! Light bulb. Finally, after all these years, I'm watching the new Bizzlesnaff one, and they announce that they're working on a D&D show. It's Catharsis. It is finally a release of, I've been waiting for this thing for years, and it's finally coming. And months go by, I'm waiting for it. I'm rewatching the clip where they're talking about it. I'm saying, it's gotta happen, it's gotta happen, it's gotta happen. And then it's gone. It's up. Die of laughter. First episode goes up. It's the most crazy thing I've ever seen. They've got hand-drawn visuals. They've got moving stingers. They've got all these visuals and stuff. It's everything I wanted it to be. Bizzle invents this world of just nonsense, of things like pro wrestling, that people just do pro wrestling. That's like, if you get on someone's bad side, they're gonna do like a German suplex on you, or a band of gnomes will come in from out of town for like a birthday party, or the people will talk about how they hate like sand elves or something. It's all this stuff, and at the center of it, you have Hugh, Bob, and Jerry Beetleman. They show up in a tavern in some dingy backwater town. No one knows about it. It's just like a place you stop at for a night's rest, get something to eat, and move on. That's where Hugh is working. That's where Bob stops by. That's where Brian stops by. Jerry Beetleman stops by. They go in and they decide we're just going to stick here forever. Immediately. They're resisting every single hook into actual adventure immediately. It's everything I expected from it, of just negative progress, of spending hours talking about how this thing on the menu is 5 gold. Actually, it's like 2 silver. And just random, like, nothingness. It's nothing. It's the fucking Seinfeld of D&D podcasts.
They make out anything but the most basic of shapes as your eyes adjust to the lack of light. You believe there are lamp fixtures along the wall, but it's difficult to tell. Pob and Hugh are still heavily intoxicated, and JB's body feels, well, like it just got suplexed onto a hard wooden floor.
I forgot to ask an incredibly important question before this session. You said there's candle fixtures potentially?
Why did we say, oh my god? What the
yeah, it's so
you wanted to end it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So there was nothing there? There was...
You just turned
my
it.
God,
go.
so
You're
dark.
like,
I'm gonna cast Prestige on one of these torches or candles.
you do that, and it's successful.
I get a nat 20 -1, but I don't think that. I mean, no, wait, this isn't that cool of a thing to get a nat 20 on, but
Yeah.
Would you like to describe how you do it?
I run up the wall like Matrix style, and as I'm starting to do my backflip, I like grab it and I have it behind my back, and then I don't know, then I'm like, oh
That's
shit,
too
where
much
is
flair.
it? I fucking lost it because I'm so drunk. It falls when I slip on it and I fall all the way down the stairs and die. Bam, what?
I think you do things.
I go, I feel newfound power. My God.
Oh, me too. All of a sudden, I feel
grab
like
you by the throat and I go, "Don't ever compare yourself to me."
I feel like I'm different.
You're a different species to me, insect. I drop you. I go, "Oh, sorry." Not how that was.
Yeah, I'm still intoxicated. I got illusions of grandeur. This guy just choked me. I want to push him down the stairs.
Oh shit! Don't kill me. I go, "Hey man, actually, I'm so sorry about that. That wasn't me." And then you me.
So you push your arms into his back, and he goes, absolutely nowhere that could possibly just be interpreted as a massage or a mist hug.
I was just trying to push you down the fucking stairs, you little piece of shit. Don't ever choke me again. Don't ever put your hands
I
down.
turn around, I choke him to death.
It's nothing. It takes 3 or 4 episodes to get them into doing something. They're saying, "Oh, we ran out of liquor, go down into the basement," and then they someone drugs them and they fall down, and when they wake up they're in a different saloon. Suddenly they're going on a bar crawling adventure where anytime they need to figure out how to leave a tavern to go to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, they meet NPCs that they like, that they want to drag along, they get magic items, they find enemies, and suddenly they're getting coaxed into revealing their little backstories, into it's perfect, into actually getting called into an adventure. By the time they get out of this mind dungeon, they want to leave and they want to do something, and they go. It's perfect. When they come back, they find out that the enemies that they ignored in the beginning, oh my god, it's perfect. Everything, I adore everything about it. It's one of the funniest actual shows. Actually fucking funny. I adore it. Perfect. Goated. Perfect. Watch it. I mean it. And it makes me, it's the first time I've ever actually fucking paid a Patreon so I could get episodes early, so I could get the bonus content. I loved it so much. I remember how fondly I would look back on having a Patreon exclusive episode, and I'd go and listen to it, and I'd go get breakfast while listening to it. I'd just sit outside drinking coffee, eating a pastry while listening to it, and it was perfect. It's this diamond encrusted memory in my mind that will always be there for me, and it pains me to say the show got canned after a year of releasing episodes. Bizzle released that they just don't have time for it. They've learned a lot from it, learned from their mistakes, and it's gotten better. They've learned that their time is too spread thin to be able to make it. They were doing 1 episode a month, and it bothers me when I was seeing Perilous Storytelling, it bothered me that it was monthly, because the episodes were 30 minutes. These episodes were 3 hours, 4 hours, so it didn't bother me as much, but it felt like a punch to the gut. I love it so much. I love this show so much that I want to do a deep dive into it. It makes me want to do that. It makes me want to scour through all the videos. What are they talking about it? Here's the production of it. Here's what happened here. Why did it get canned? I adore it. All I can hope for someday is that they either come back and do shorter form campaigns, only a couple episodes long, and then they don't need to be invested in it, and they can just have fun with it. That's the best I can hope for. And if that's not possible, then I would still love it if Bizzle was able to do it with, other people, or maybe 1 or 2 from the original. It doesn't matter. I just don't want it to end. I want more of it. I want it to come back in some form. And this is the most catharsis I can get from it. I can tell you about how much it meant to me. I loved it. It ends on a cliffhanger where you finally learn of a big bad guy that could be a good hook into a bigger thing, and it's over. It's almost perfect. It's almost a perfect way to end it, but I just want more. I swear, I just hope somehow it can come back in some form. Usually whenever I see people in comment section being like, oh man, I just wish something would come back or they make a sequel or something, and I'm talking about, no, what are you talking about? What good is it serving like saying that? But this is the first time I've really understood it. I want more of Die of Laughter. I want a spiritual successor or a sequel or a continuation or something, anything. And bring them back for like a 2-session game instead of like 30. It's, yeah. I wish I could cry on camera. I wish I could get up in the camera's face and start crying to show you how much I really mean. But that's all I've got to say.
All right, so here I am mid-game, right? How you guys doing? And now let's see how it works. I'm going to cast Fog Cloud. This looks like shit. That was a lot of wasted time. That looks horrible. It's the worst goddamn thing I've ever made.
That's all I've got to say. Closing remarks. I'll try to like compile all of these into like a graph that I can show like right here of like where I stack each of them on like a tier list or something. If I was going to recommend, if you wanted to get into D&D podcasts, like, oh, I started playing Baldur's Gate 3, but I don't have anyone to play D&D with. Oh, should watch D&D podcast. You'd probably like Critical Role. Well, gee, everyone does, huh? Everyone would. If you were just looking to get into it, I'd go Critical Role, HarmonQuest, YogsQuest. Those three, those are just like well produced. Those are the McDonald's. Anyone can eat McDonald's. If you want to go deeper though, Ultimus, he's like Twitch streamer. He's got a bunch of popular Twitch streamers. You'd probably find one group that has people you like in it. If you could find someone like that, they're perfect. They're great. When you're really into D&D podcasts, you can go for Rustage. You can go for a Die of Laughter. Any of these things. Whatever. I don't know. This is weird. I feel like I've been recording all day. I just sat down to record this, and I feel like I've been stuttering. I feel like I lost the wind in my sail in like the first quarter, and now that I'm at the end of it, it's like I ran a marathon. But it feels good. It feels like a weight off my chest. I've been watching all this stuff for like years, almost a decade probably, because I can't get my friends to play with me, so I just gotta make do. But I love it. I really do. It's one of my favorite things. It's my rock. It's my rock. It's been the most stable, consistent aspect to my life in that regard. So it really does just mean a lot to me. I'm thinking about why I even did this. And I guess it's just that I hope that somehow this can reach somebody who it means just as much to me as it does to them. That's all I have to say, really. I hope someday in the future I can go into depth about like some of my favorites and maybe go back and look back at some of the old ones I used to love and see just how I love them or whatever. Probably not gonna do like a D&D podcast channel. That's like, yeah. But, you know, I'll talk about whatever I feel like whenever I feel like it. But I just hope that whatever I say is to the right people. Whoever this means equally to, whatever. You know what I mean. From the bottom of my heart, if there is actually anyone who does watch this and sees this, and is, you know, sees what I'm saying, I do want to say thank you. Thanks for watching, Brofist, right? Thanks. See ya.